when was the best time for African Americans to live in the United States? And he's like, today. Right? I mean, yeah, we have a long way to go, but no African American wants to go back
to the 60s.
It wasn't great back then. It wasn't great in like the 19th century when they were slaves or living under Jim Crow. So that phrase, "Make America Great Again," is loaded with discriminatory kind of ideas, and it thus feeds a kind of I think this is why, although Trump will deny, right, that he's stirring white supremacy and all of this, but it is a kind of whistle, dog whistle, to people saying, yeah, let's return back to the good old days, right? And what is it? The Billy Joel song, "The Good Old Days Weren't Always Good." What I mean? So that's something that I wrestle with a little bit in this book. Whose golden age are we returning to? That's why I think this is very much embedded in kind of racial and gender-oriented, kind of categories. Not completely, not totally. I mean, I'm sure a lot of Americans would like to go back to the 80s when the economy was booming, right? Maybe that's what Trump means. But every time Trump appeals, but he never says that. Every time he makes an appeal to the past, he appeals to some of the most divisive moments. So on the campaign, right, he was talking about Operation Wetback. I'll round up all the illegal Hispanics and send them back. Or he talks about Andrew Jackson. He has a picture of Andrew Jackson, the white supremacist president who sent the Indians on the Trail of Tears. Right? He has that guy's picture up behind him. So then he says, "Make America Great Again." And I'm like, okay, what was a good time? When was history good? When Andrew Jackson was president, or when we're doing Operation Wetback, or America First, which was a kind of anti-Semitic, isolationist view associated with Charles Lindbergh in the 1930s, right? These are all, I don't think he's smart enough to know exactly what he's doing, but there are other people who's smart enough to know what he's doing, and they're saying, you're giving us a freedom now to pursue these ideas again. And I think that's what you saw in Charlottesville. Those people protesting that monument in Charlottesville last August, they were trying to make America great again, as they understood it. So yeah, it's loaded. It's all of his phraseology when he uses that term. And for Christians to embrace that without any kind of... Now, granted, I'll be the first one to say, like, okay, let's take, like, popular culture, right? I got kids. I don't want them to be turning on the television and seeing such violence and all this kind of stuff. There has been change. The television and movies are much more violent and so forth, and that bothers me. So I don't think I think when Christians use the phrase, they have to use it critically, though, that it's just not about, their issues, right? And Trump is the president of the United States. His whole mentality is to appeal to like the base. Everything he says is he doesn't care about the nation as a whole. He's incapable of entering into a conversation that includes all people, right? It's only about his kind of base. And that, to me, is the essence of narcissism, right? You're incapable of seeing yourself as something larger than yourself and your followers, right? You're capable. I remember when John Perkins, the civil rights activist, said he was going to skip the inauguration, and Trump blasted him on Twitter, right? I mean, if Trump knew that this man had been almost beaten to death 3 times once on the bridge at Selma to fight for rights and so forth, he has no understanding whatsoever of how his presidency fits into the American past. If he understood that better, he might be a different person from that encounter, with the past. I'm preaching now, but this is part of the kind of cultural criticism of the book. I have a whole chapter called "Make America Great Again," in which I unpack exactly what I just talked about in much greater depth.